Captain Copernicus Leslie Qwark. This character played a pivotal role in the series. At this point, he's considered a main side character, should I say, the main side character. Out of 13 games, he has appeared in 9 of them, if you include the reimagining, and these are not mentions I'm talking about, actual appearances. Qwark is, I guess, a very egotistical man, a coward sometimes, always wanting attention, and he has this one fear, which is his number one fear: humiliation. If something goes wrong and makes him look weak or like a fool, or wants to be the center of attention, he goes wherever there's an opportunity, whether it's to cover his tracks or gain recognition. Qwark is not an anti-hero. Some of you might say that, but I don't think so. He wants to be a hero, but fails miserably due to his massive ego. He acted as an antagonist twice in the series, and for what? 2 things: fame/recognition and comeback. And what did it result in? False hope. Thus begins the story of Captain Qwark. Before diving into the classic timeline, let's go over the reimagined story of Ratchet and Clank. He's the leader of the Galactic Rangers. He was looking for a new recruit due to Drek's actions in the galaxy. Ratchet wanted to join. He did enter the trials on Veldin. Qwark said no due to, let's say, Ratchet's criminal activities in the past. Ratchet proves himself on Kerwan, and citizens agreed that Ratchet should join. Qwark, not to look like a fool, he goes with the crowd and says yes. If he didn't say yes, the crowd would have looked at Qwark in total despair. Qwark sends Ratchet and Clank on a mission called Falling Star, where they suddenly encounter the Blargian Snagglebeast, and we can say that this was intentional, to get rid of Ratchet, because he was jealous. Next mission, Assault on Quartu. They discover the plans of the Deplanetizer, and Qwark, his plan was to try and negotiate with Drek. Once he meets Drek, he tries to convince Qwark. Drek tries to convince Qwark that Ratchet stole his glory. They make a supposed deal: spy on Ratchet in exchange for fame. After the whole thing between Nefarious and Drek, Qwark tries to kill Ratchet and Clank. Ratchet reminds Qwark that he used to look up to him, and Qwark, afterwards, he wakes up like, what am I doing? He admits he did wrong. I mean, at a point he witnessed the destruction of a planet, and afterwards, jail time. So now we go back in time. Now we enter the classic timeline of Ratchet and Clank. Qwark never knew his parents, according to Size Matters. Is it canon? Yes, according to Insomniac Games on their Twitter. They died due to faulty technomite technology. And apparently, since he no longer had parents, he was raised by monkeys, cyclophic monkeys, on Florana at a young age. His age was unspecified. He entered learning Annex School on Kerwan afterwards, and learned how to draw schematics. As he got older, he entered high school and bullied a so-called friend called Nefarious in biology class. Little did he know that doing that to that character would cause a lot of trouble in the future. I mean, big trouble. Qwark, at the age of 26, he remained in 9th grade. He attended a 3-week correspondence course, and that's how he got the title Captain. Now, in the reimagining, it was never explained how Qwark became a hero. One thing I'd like to point out: Nefarious was bullied by Qwark in the original timeline. As for the reimagining, Nefarious used to be part of the team of the Galactic Rangers, but he was treated poorly and just turned insane at one point. Now, a good portion of his origin story was introduced in Vid-Comics, which was in a Pure Arsenal, the 3rd game on a PS2. So he eventually gets into that. Big Al called it a historical accurate interactive graphic novel, and to keep it short, it's full of propaganda. While the events overall in those accurate graphic novels, they're true. However, the narrator said that no one would believe this script at one point. Vid-Comic number 5, that one was never published, and it uncovered the truth. Now, what were these events about? Dealing with Dr. Nefarious. I did make a Nefarious lore video if you want to check it out one day, but yeah, I'm not gonna get too much into Dr. Nefarious. The main focus of the video is Captain Qwark. So other than the Vid-Comics, apparently he had faced a bunch of enemies. Apparently he had an evil twin called Quasar, whom he defeated. Yeah, Qwark is Qwark. Al explained that, but knowing Qwark, he probably lied. He's gotten a bunch of awards, only 2 involved the Zagroot. Also, he wrote a book documenting his adventures called Muscles, Memories, and Masks: My Life as a Legend, and these were given out for free at the Intergalactic Museum of History. So about these Vid-Comics. Number 1. Qwark entering adulthood, ready to face Captain Blackstar, a space pirate with his own army of other space pirates. He succeeded, and he was offered a large sum of money. money. He donated it to Qwark for Thought's scholarship fund, and he gained a status by doing so. Vid-Comic number 2, Amoeboid infestation on Blackwater City caused by Dr. Nefarious. He's the one who created those creatures on that very planet. Qwark didn't really succeed at defeating the Amoeboids. He hid in women's restrooms at Galaxy Burger. Afterwards, Qwark breaks out of his fear. He decides to face the Amoeboids again. At that point, he succeeded, and Nefarious escapes. And what he does is he holds on to Nefarious's ship, holding breath through space the whole time. Qwark is dumb, but he sure can hold his breath. Vid-Comic number 3. For 6 days, he's been on that ship. Eventually, it arrived at the secret base on planet Magmos. He disguises himself, first as a trash can and then as a pizza delivery lady. Nefarious has watched his every moves. He knew Qwark was dumb. After going through his base, they encounter each other. Qwark recognizes Nefarious as that kid he used to bully in school. He tries to give him a wedgie for old time's sake, and then boom, he falls into mechanical gears. Vid-Comic number 4. Qwark retires at Metropolis, watching Lance and Janice. That's also Nefarious' favorite show, by the way. Helga comes in, she tries putting him back into shape. Nefarious, he comes back as a robot, unleashes a huge wave of robotic insects at Metropolis. Qwark faces him again, and he thinks he just changed his hair. Qwark defeats Nefarious, he puts his head in the trash. Qwark takes over the narrator at this point, because the script was missing a piece. And this missing piece is explained in comic number 5, the one which was never published. Something Qwark didn't want the public to know about. Qwark only wanted his success to be shown, not his failures. He hates humiliation. And now we move on to Vid-Comic number 5, the unpublished one. Truth is, Qwark was knocked on the head by Nefarious's butler, Lawrence. He got unconscious. He was taken to one of Nefarious's labs. He was put inside a cage. He used his antenna to lockpick, and later realized there was acid raising. Qwark avoids the public for some time later. He decides to stay at his base planet, the Thran asteroid. Nefarious was gone for some time, so Qwark decided to jump back into the spotlight. Already we know what type of character he is. He doesn't want to admit to the public that he's afraid. Since Nefarious is out of the picture for some time, he decides to jump back into the public, pretending that he stopped Nefarious. Afterwards, he makes an ad for Al's RoboShack on planet Kerwan Metropolis, and this was made before the events of Ratchet and Clank 1, because Big Al explained that he hasn't seen Qwark since that ad was made. Other than that ad, Qwark did announce winners for the hoverboard races. Now these adventures, the Vid-Comics, did these events happen before the first game or within the first game? You can argue. I will dive deeper into this in like a minute or two, I think. Let's first go over the very first Ratchet and Clank game on the PS2. You thought the reimagining made him look like a villain? Think again. The classic game made it more evident from the very start. Ratchet did look up to him. Same scenario. Despite his cowardness, Qwark was able to gain a big status still. He gets hired by Drek as a spokesperson for his new planet, New Quartu. Okay, that right there. Didn't Qwark know what was this new planet made of? Surely he knew. And why was he doing this? Why was he going along with Drek? Fame and money. He didn't care. He had fame, and that's what he always seeked. At a point he was ordered to stop Clank, the defect robot. Eventually, Qwark realizes that Ratchet and Clank are both looking for him, so he decides to talk to Ratchet inside the trailer at Blackwater City. He tells them, "I'm gonna train you." Later on planet Umbris, his headquarters, they face the Snaggle Beast. Qwark was hoping that the Snaggle Beast would kill Ratchet and Clank, and for what? A way of comeback. Money. With Ratchet out of the picture, Qwark would get all the fame. Afterwards, Ratchet wanted revenge. They find him at Gemlik Base, the orbit above Ultanis. He gets defeated, he hides on Ultanis, pretends to be Steve McQuark. He sold Ratchet this PDA, which if you remember, you'd buy ammo at a higher price. You didn't need to go to a vendor. After that, he continued as Steve McQuark, selling bogus gadgets, defective, causing a bunch of problems, people complaining. He claimed they were Gadgetron products, by the way, and the personal hygienator being his most popular one, or should I say his most popular defective gadget ever, which put him into a lot of trouble, and he was simply selling that to make money. Enough money for his comeback. So before I proceed, let's go over the whole situation of Qwark and Nefarious, the whole Vid-Comic thing. The Amoeboids at Blackwater City. Darla states in the first game that the infestation was recently happening, and Nefarious was the one who created those creatures. Was Nefarious there when Ratchet was getting rid of the Amoeboids? Did Qwark take all of the credit? Perhaps he was hiding at Galaxy Burger the whole time. He wasn't the one who defeated the Amoeboids, right? However, that would mean that Qwark was also going after Nefarious in Ratchet and Clank 1. He held on to Nefarious' ship for 6 days. I don't think he did that in the first game. Am I mistaken? It doesn't really fit. He also took a break on Metropolis. Unless that happened after Ratchet and Clank 1, but that still doesn't make sense because of the following. Going Commando. Let's continue. Well, technically speaking, before going Commando, due to his scam of the Hygienator, he was ordered to pay 6 billion bolts to those who were suffering from personal Hygienator syndrome. He fled to Pokitaru, but was found. He was put into jail for attempting to escape. He escapes trial by flushing himself down the toilet. Like seriously, he can breathe through space and he flushes himself down a toilet. Impressive. Plan B. He goes to Megacorp, where Fizzwidget and Angela Cross were working on this new project called The Perfect Pet. He hides the real Fizzwidget in the closet. Well, the supply closet? He dresses up as him. Angela decides to leave the company because she didn't agree what this new Fizzwidget was saying. This new Fizzwidget, aka Qwark, wanted to release the faulty Proto-Pet. Angela thought they weren't ready. She disagreed, she left the company. She had her own plan. Before Qwark got to mass production of the Proto-Pet, Angela disguised herself as the thief. She took the Proto-Pet and kept it safe on the flying lab at Plant Uranus. So now we jump into the events of going Commando. Qwark teleports Ratchet and Clank, tells them to retrieve the Proto-Pet as a way of training to become a Commando. The duo, they get to the pet at the flying lab. They give it to Qwark on planet Tabora, and the duo still had no idea who this guy was. They only knew him as Fizzwidget. And would you look at that, Qwark crushes their ship. Knowing Qwark, he'd do that. Afterwards, Qwark becomes less responsive, avoiding Ratchet and Clank altogether. Since the duo knew about the dangers of the Proto-Pet, they were eventually invited at the Deep Space Disposal Facility. After that, they went on their own. So eventually, Qwark mass produces the Proto-Pets. They all go insane, they're not ready. And all of this chaos leads them to Fizzwidget on planet Udil at Megacorp, the headquarters. The female robot warns them that Qwark is still at large. And boom, Qwark reveals himself. And why do all this? To create havoc. You know, so that Qwark would step in and supposedly save the day. You see what I meant before? He tries to be a hero, but he fails miserably. The way he gets at it, it's just non-heroic. And guess who he blamed for the whole Proto-Pet mess? Angela and Ratchet. So, a couple of seconds later, Qwark tries ending this Proto-Pet problem. He uses Angela's Helix Omorph. He accidentally makes the pet big. After the battle, Fizzwidget returns. Qwark, he became a tester of gadgets with the other test bots. He was told to test the Crotchetizer. So time passes and eventually he returns to the Solana galaxy. He exiles himself on planet Florana. Alright, size matters. It was explained that he was raised by monkeys on Florana. It makes sense, maybe he felt like Florana was like home. That's why he exiled himself over there. And now we enter a pure arsenal. President Pharonix receives a top secret info on the whereabouts of a one man who was able to stop Nefarious in the past. He was called the Florana Tree Beast, according to Nature's Mysteries. Qwark was that tree beast. All that time he spent with the monkeys on Florana, he lost it. Also had memory loss. He made a friend in the process, named Scrunch. After Ratchet and Clank find the first Vid-Comic, Qwark watches them play, and he regains his memory, and forms the Q-Force. Qwark comes up with several missions, one of which Ratchet hated. That was most likely intentional. The gang infiltrate Nefarious' base on Aquatos, well, one of his bases. They defeat the Tyrannoids on Tyrannosis afterwards, and they also defeat Mama Tyrannoid. And by the way, the soundtrack during this fight, it's part of my top 20. Knowing Qwark already, he took the credit when he was talking to Darla Gratch, claiming it's thanks to his courage, compassion, dashing good looks, and iron-hard abs. There he goes again, taking all the credit where it's not needed. When the gang find Nefarious on his Star Cruiser, the Leviathan, Nefarious sets the whole thing on auto-destruct. Qwark decided to stay behind. He was looking for something important. Clunk refuses to wait. Yes, that Clank was swapped with Clunk, to spy on Ratchet. That was Nefarious' plan. Anyways, they think Qwark is dead. They hold a memorial ceremony on the starship Phoenix. Later on, Ratchet plays Vid-Comic number 5. They discover his hideout place on the Thran asteroid. They actually manage to find him there, in exile again. He refuses to cooperate any further. The gang leaves him behind. Judging by the look on his face, he was having doubts. Planet Mylon. The duo face Nefarious and the Bio-Obliterator, and boom, Qwark shows up. For the very first time, he shows a real heroic side, working alongside Ratchet. Nefarious gets defeated, they all watch Secret Agent Clank's movie premiere. Ratchet Deadlocked. Qwark is not shown, he's simply mentioned after defeating Vox. He delivers a message to the duo, apparently living in blissful ignorance with Scrunch in an unknown area. After Deadlocked, we enter Size Matters. Alright, according to the developers of Size Matters, it's not Insomniac Games we're talking about. The developers of that game on the PSP said that these events take place after Deadlocked, so let's go with that, just for the sake of this video. Clank spots Qwark on Pokitaru. Ratchet and Clank were on vacation after their adventures at Dread Zone. One thing to point out here, let me play this scene.
Qwark?
Clank! What a coincidence! What are you doing here?
I am trailing Ratchet and Clank to see what they are doing, so I can join in on their next adventure.
Hey, that's what I'm doing! No, wait,
Do you not have somewhere else to go? Home to your family, perhaps?
Hey, Qwark. Nice hat.
Clank says, I am tracing Ratchet and Clank to see what they are doing and join in on their next adventure. Vivi, wasn't he supposed to say Ratchet and Luna? Is this some sort of mistake in the script? I don't think so. Clank said that intentionally to find out if Qwark was spying on them. And would you look at that, Qwark says yes. And yes, that's how Clank discovered that he was spying on the duo. Clank wonders if he had other things to do, perhaps see his parents or something like that. Qwark breaks down. He never knew his family. He was adopted and raised on Florana. After robot Luna was kidnapped, Qwark follows the duo to planet Realus, gives the gang advice on their next location. Meanwhile, he discovers a website called fofamily.com. Faux, if you translate it to English, you get false. So read it as falsefamily.com. He claimed he found his parents on that website. He runs off to the Technomite factory afterwards. At the end of the game, Auto Destruct, the leader of the Technomites, pretended to be Qwark's father, so he would follow orders. Scrunch comes with a newspaper after Destruct is defeated, and on that paper it states that his parents died during a malfunction of Technomite tech. Qwark tries switching brain power with Auto Destruct. That was Auto's plan, to steal, brain power from Ratchet. That's why he made a bunch of Ratchet clones. Auto shrunks him, and Scrunch, he steps on the machine. Instead of Qwark's brain being transferred, the monkey's brain gets transferred to Auto. Later on, at the end of the game, miniature Qwark is found in Clank's apartment, explains his heroic deeds to the clone miniature Ratchets. That's pretty much it for Size Matters. Next, we move on to Secret Agent Clank. Honestly, I'm gonna skip this one. I'm just gonna keep it very short. Okay, there are two theories floating around. That Clank perhaps was dreaming inside the Great Clock, when Nefarious and the Zoni were keeping an eye on him, or Secret Agent Clank is just an episode. Anyways, to keep it short, like I said, Qwark's interviewed throughout the whole game. Clunk paid Qwark to write his autobiography. Clunk sends Barney, which stands for Biography Analysis Robot Neo 8 Yellow, to write the autobiography. Qwark comes up with a bunch of bogus stories, and at the end of the game, the true intention of this interview was revealed, to track down Clank. But really, this probably never happened, so let's jump to Tools of Destruction. Qwark started working at the Planetary Defense System of Kerwan Metropolis. Tachyon sends troops to his post eventually. He calls Ratchet and Clank for help. Now when the duo reach his post, Qwark isn't there. He apparently surrendered and went to the Polaris Galaxy. He explained this in a way which wouldn't make him look stupid. He comes up with an excuse. He tried to fend off the enemies. Assumes he destroyed 2,000 of them. He loves to exaggerate. For the safety of the citizens, he swore allegiance and became Tachyon's confidant. So after that, he becomes the announcer at an arena called the Imperial Fight Festival. He told Ratchet to come disguised as Mustachio Furioso though. He let them compete without getting caught, to win prizes, which would aid them. One of the prizes was the Hollow Pirate disguise. Qwark then finds an infobot in Tachyon's underwear drawer. What was he even doing there, who knows? Now this infobot had information on supercomputer Iris. The duo visit the computer, and yeah, Qwark later explains Ratchet and Clank how to break Talwyn out of Zordum prison. Qwark steals coordinates from Tachyon's computer. Afterwards, and they discover the Dimensionator on planet Jacinda was relocated. After dealing with Captain Slag, who took the Dimensionator, Qwark appears, attempts to save everyone by saying he'd throw the Dimensionator in a black hole. That didn't happen, of course. He crashes on planet Reaper, the home of the Kragmites. And yes, as usual, Qwark gets captured by Tachyon. Ratchet and Clank, as always, they save him. And this time, it's at Meridian City on planet Igliak. But Qwark, he chickens out and decides to remain in there. Now, aren't we used to that, right? By now, I mean... Anyways, he eventually returns to Apogee's base. He learns pirate language with Rusty Pete, and yeah, that's about it for Tools of Destruction. After that, Clank gets kidnapped by the Zoni. Quest for Booty is about finding Clank. Qwark doesn't make an appearance, but we do find a statue, gold statue, half buried with books, near the beach on planet Hulafar. After Quest for Booty, Captain Qwark is interviewed, and it says on the left bottom corner that he's an actor. Eventually, Qwark becomes an actor in his Holovision series called My Blaster Runs Hot. But the point is, in this interview, he goes over the disappearance of Clank, pretty much summarizing the events of Tools and Quest for Booty. A crack in time. Qwark joins Ratchet to look for Clank. They crash land on planet Quantos. They meet the Fongoids and they tell the duo about the Zoni. Qwark and the Fongoids, they get kidnapped by Lord Vorslon, who was hired by Nefarious. Yes, Nefarious is back in this game. Qwark and the Fongoids, they get rescued by who? The Lombax himself. Ratchet tells Qwark to get the Fongoids out of that place, out of Vorslon's worship. Qwark eventually, again, gets kidnapped by the Aquarian race. How many times has this dude been kidnapped, right? Ratchet, again, he frees him at the Argorian Battleplex. He was given to Ratchet, actually, as a backup. Qwark, he finds a way to take the spotlight again. He uses his wise words of wisdom. We can say he befriends the Wargrok. He didn't beat the Wargrok, but his words alone were able to give Qwark all of the attention. Afterwards, Qwark dresses up as another lady, Nurse Shannon, to sneak into Nefarious' space station. They tried destroying Nefarious' ships. Qwark escaped afterwards and finds himself with the Wargrok, who's hungry. So, after a crack in time, Qwark finds a way to get back to Polaris, taking credit for Nefarious' defeat, of course. Artemis Zog contacts him, a guy running for president of the galaxy. He wanted Qwark to endorse him. Zog showed his Helios project, which involved moving planets to different locations in case of catastrophes. Qwark's producer of his film Unicop tells him to run for president himself instead of Zog. Qwark agrees. When he was supposed to introduce Zog to the public, Qwark announced his position instead, to get elected. After that, Qwark, since he's elected, he shuts down Project Helios, due to it being potentially dangerous. Artemis gets distraught about the whole situation, so plan B for Zog, evil plan should I say, to make his own galaxy. Steal planets, move it to this new galaxy where he would have his own power. So after these events, we move on to the comics, which take place after A Crack in Time and take place between A Crack in Time and All for One. That's what I mean. Qwark meets up with Ratchet on Veldin because planets start disappearing. Qwark denied the Helios project. Clank brings it up. He denies it at first. They form a team. Sasha and her Galactic Rangers from the third game, Talwyn, Kronk, and Zephyr. Qwark later tells the truth. He had to hide this whole thing about the Helios project. That was presidential duty. He explained that the project utilized the Seronox shard, used by the Lombaxes to power up the Dimensionator. Qwark explains the whole Artemis Zog situation, that he was a presidential candidate. With Zog dealt with, Qwark returns to his presidential chair. All for One. Qwark's interviewed by Kip Darling. For the search for Nefarious, people discovered his status, that he's out there. Qwark assures the public that everything is fine. He receives a phone call. Apparently he's supposed to receive this Intergalactic Tool of Justice Award for for defeating the light-eating Zagroot, which wasn't the case. They arrive to planet Igliak, Luminopolis. Nefarious shows up with his true intentions, to have Qwark, to have him on planet Igliak. Nefarious reanimates Zagroot, which goes over the city, causing destruction. And there's a twist. Nefarious was caught in his own mess, so Nefarious was stuck with the gang. Nefarious working with Qwark. Who would have thought? They handle the Zagroot, and they all get taken to Ephemeris, this testing lab. Nefarious tried killing Qwark a few times in All for One, but sometimes they would also warm up to each other, like starting to have this soft spot. They all stop the main bad guy, Loki, and Nefarious leaves the gang, steals their ship pretty much, telling them that he's a supervillain. But later on it was revealed that Nefarious actually missed spending time with Ratchet, Clank, and Qwark. That was his first time he experienced friendship. All this time he was acting as the bad guy trying to destroy the universe, all that kind of stuff, but he failed to realize what friendship is actually like. And he had that chance in All for One. Anyways, this video is not about Nefarious, let's move on to Full Frontal Assault. Qwark loses the next election. He gets bored, he's not the president, he doesn't know what to do. The gang is on board the Starship Phoenix 2. We can say that pretty much he was spending time with the duo. Where else would he go? They're pretty much friends at this point. They get an anonymous phone call. Apparently the planetary defense systems got deactivated on 3 planets. Reactivating them required a Polaris trooper. That means only Ratchet, Clank, and Qwark could fight and activate those defenses. After handling the defenses, Stuart Zergo reveals himself, a fan who was part of Qwark's cadet fan club, a rival to Ratchet's fan club by Big Al. I did talk about this in the Big Al video, which I made recently. The gang, they later defeat his forces, they enter Zergor's lair of doom, they face him. It ends with Qwark talking to Ratchet about pirates and how he should clear his name. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we move on to the last game, which featured Captain Copernicus. Well, apart from the reimagining. When the duo were sent to Zarkov's sector, after the death of Kronk and Zephyr, Tolwyn sent Qwark to help tow the Aphelion, Ratchet's ship. Qwark insisted helping the duo. He finds them, he uses his ship to grab the two. The three talk at Miro City, Ratchet telling Qwark if the Dimensionator, the real one, is safe. Qwark assures that it is kept safe at the Museum of History on Igliak. And this is after Ratchet told Qwark about Vendra's plan to build another Dimensionator. After Ratchet made a deal with Neftin, save his sister, Vendra, in exchange for giving themselves to the authorities, Qwark helped fix the Dimensionator with Neftin, it is assumed. We don't have an actual scene, but this happens during gameplay. And that, folks, is the story of Captain Copernicus Leslie Qwark. So if you watched the whole thing, you are absolutely awesome. So what you can realize after watching this video is there's this spectrum. On the left side, we have foe. On the right side, we got ally. As years have passed, Qwark slowly moved onto the other end of the spectrum, closer to ally. Like he's had this closer relationship with Ratchet and Clank. Although he is still not the wisest guy, he's reached a point where he's friendly to Ratchet and Clank. Like at this point he considers them friends. But yeah, I think I've said enough for this video, so if you have any questions, if I missed anything important, mention it in the comments section below. And as always, I've been Vivi and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching and until next time.